Haiti's in the news again, and it's not because things are getting better. We'll talk about it on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey there, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for watching Hot Zone. We're talking about Haiti again. I got home from church on Sunday. I got news that 17 Christian missionaries had been kidnapped outside of Port-au-Prince or on their way back from an orphanage that they were visiting. They were stopped by armed gang members. At this point, I think it's fair to say that Haiti is definitely a failed state. They really don't have any government control to speak of. Gangs rule the streets all over the country, and they're fighting and vying for power. And one of the ways that they get money to do that is by kidnapping. Kidnapping has always been a problem there, at least for the last 10 years or so. But it's gotten worse. As a matter of fact, just this year, more than 360 people have been reported kidnapped in Haiti. Some of those, many of those, are Haitian nationals. They're kidnapping doctors. They're kidnapping policemen. They're kidnapping housewives. They're kidnapping diplomats. Anybody they can get their hands on, because they can earn between several hundred and up to $1 million in ransom from every person that they kidnap. And of course, people are fleeing Haiti in droves. We've seen that in the tens of thousands of Haitians that have arrived on U.S. shores over the last several months. And even those Haitians fled Haiti like 3 or 4 years ago. So now the number of Haitians that are leaving Haiti is accelerating. The people who are left are in a really bad, really untenable situation. So here's a former diplomat to Haiti, American diplomat to Haiti, talking about the problem.
The security situation, the economic situation, the health situation are all grave in Haiti right now. And we just had a major earthquake and a tropical depression in the south, and it needs to be reconstructed. Haiti's government and Haiti as a country cannot support the people it has there right now. Security is not only impacting the ability to hold elections, it's everyday life. There have been a number of massacres. And when I say massacres, I think the largest one was 72 people. So you're talking about large numbers of people being killed by the gangs back in 2019, I believe. The kidnapping for ransom has become just part of the society. There were 20 kidnappings last Saturday on one day in Port-au-Prince. Women and men are afraid to leave their homes, to go shopping, to go out at night, et cetera. So clearly they need assistance in security.
So, you know, missionaries are some of the prime targets for these groups that are kidnapping people in Haiti. I covered Doug Burbella's story back in 2019 when he was in an attempted robbery or kidnapping, we don't know. He was shot and almost killed. It's a miracle that he survived. I'll show you that story in a second. This year, a good friend of mine who's a missionary in Haiti was shot in a robbery attempt, we believe, up in the northern part of the country in Cap Haitian, and paralyzed, and is now back in the States recovering and will probably never walk again, it sounds like, the way things are going. And so just a couple of months ago, there was a missionary family that was killed in its completely, except for I think one member of the family, because it was so dangerous to drive to where they were going that they had to take a small airplane. That airplane crashed. And so due to the violent situation on the ground, they ended up losing their lives in the airplane crash. So things are definitely not getting better in Haiti. And, you know, it makes me wonder if Donald Trump was still president, what the news conference would be about these American missionaries that were just captured. It would be something along the lines of, you've got 24 hours to release them, and I hope you don't, because we're going to come in there and absolutely wipe out your whole neighborhood until we find them. I don't think the Biden administration has the stones to actually send in the Navy SEALs or the Rangers or somebody to try to rescue these missionaries, even if we could figure out where they are. America's intelligence capabilities are very hobbled right now. We're severely hobbled in the human intelligence category. Signals intelligence might not help us a whole lot in this case. And unfortunately, we just, you know, the CIA is kind of a mess. The whole of the U.S. ability to project power is shrinking away, and that's a really sad thing. And it is especially for these missionaries. Now, these missionaries belong to Christian Aid Ministries, which is a Christian ministry out of Ohio. They've been in the news kind of not for a good reason lately, because Christian Aid Ministries was implicated in a scandal in Haiti with an orphanage that had one of their people molesting young kids, and apparently they tried to cover it up. But that's sort of irrelevant to this case. These missionaries were there at this orphanage trying to do work to help the people of Haiti, and they were kidnapped, and now we get to see what happens next. Like I say, I would be surprised if the Biden administration were to do anything militarily. I'd be less surprised if they just sent a bunch of money down there to release them. But I guess that remains to be seen. Let's hope that as much as we would hope and pray that these people get released, let's hope that they don't get released by paying a large ransom, because that will just make the problem worse in the long run and result in more people being kidnapped. Because if you make it profitable for them, they're going to do it some more. You get more of what you subsidize and less of what you penalize. So let's find a way to penalize this gang and make sure that they don't want to do this ever again. That would be the right thing to do. So take a look at this piece from 2019 about Doug Burbella. Everything said in this piece is still pertinent today, and it gives you a real good sense of what we're up against in the nation of Haiti. Check it out.
As Venezuela's economy has plummeted, some neighboring countries are feeling the pain as well. A sweetheart deal on petroleum between Venezuela and Haiti ended last July, which led to a 50% hike in the price of fuel. Haitians took to the streets, burning tires and blocking roads. In the following months, more than 70 protesters died in the riots. Amid all this strife is a rising tide of gang violence, turning some parts of Haiti into no-go zones, even for the police. This group of Christian missionaries arrived in April with computers and supplies for a community center they're helping to build. Shortly after leaving the airport in Port-au-Prince, things went terribly wrong.
About 4 hours or 3.5 hours outside of Port-au-Prince, came upon a gang of people that were stopping the traffic. We were the first ones to hit it because we were the only ones there. I've been there 100, 200 times. I've never had any major problems. So it's not a normal thing that happened. This is a very rare thing that we've never encountered before.
What concerned the missionaries most was that many in the crowd were armed.
The truck was just totally swarmed with men with guns and weapons, and they were pounding on the windows, trying to break all the windows to get in. And then they were on the hood, and then they were up on the top trying to get our luggage. There's one man standing there with his gun, and he has 2 white lines down his cheek and to his chin. And it reminded me of voodoo.
We came around a corner, and all of a sudden, here the road's blocked off, there's burning tires, there's debris, there's this mass crowd of 100, 120 people there, well armed with guns. And as we started approaching, they started firing these guns up in the air. And I'll be perfectly truthful, at that moment, I thought, we're gonna die.
Drew Passler was driving the second vehicle along with the team doctor, Doug Burbella.
And as we were approaching, he said, slow down a little bit. So I'm kind of, cautiously approaching as I'm watching these people start pouring in from the sides of the road, swarming the vehicle in front of me. It was when I saw, a rifle come around the side, we thought that they were going to execute everybody. So we started reversing, and Doug's yelling, go, go, go. And as I'm going, that's when we started hearing the guns fire that were being pointed at us.
With their vehicle disabled by the gunfire, bandits quickly overtook the truck.
I could see that there was a motorcycle next to us, and they had a machine gun, and the window blew out behind my head. And a couple seconds after that, I heard Doug yell, "I'm dying, I've been hit."
As the gang emptied both vehicles, the situation continued to deteriorate.
And that's when I first looked back to see his face covered in blood, and I could see that he had 2 visible wounds and possibly more just based on the amount of blood that I saw.
Then the gunman put his rifle up to Dr. Burbella's head. But before he could pull the trigger, something extraordinary happened.
Maybe 30 seconds later, after they'd taken my cell phone, I could see that they had my bag out of the truck. A man on a motorcycle just pulled out of nowhere in front of me. And he looked at me and he said, "It's okay. It's going to be okay." And he said this, which was bizarre, in perfect English with no accent. Not even yelling, just kind of normal talking voice. He just said something in Creole in 2 to 3 words. And everybody around us that had the guns just kind of stopped.
Everything changed. The whole demeanor of the crowd just stood back. I don't know what they saw, but they stepped back and the tension was gone.
But the crisis wasn't over. Doug Burbella was slowly bleeding to death.
Doug had so much blood on him, we thought that he had been lung shot through the vitals, but we couldn't do anything because he physically couldn't move. And during the course of the trip back, Doug was fading in and out. And at one point in time, he said, "Look, I'm not going to make it. Would somebody please record my last words?"
I just want you to know I love you, and I love you, Michael. Michael, I want you to be a pilot. Don't ever give up that dream. Live for the Lord.
When Doug finally left Haiti on the Life Flight aircraft, they brought him here to Delray Medical Center in Delray Beach, Florida. The doctors and surgeons who worked on him since then, removing the bullets and bullet fragments from his neck and face, say that the fact that he's still alive is nothing short of a miracle.
I didn't say much, but I just felt I had to say something.
Doug wants people to learn from his ordeal.
I want people to know that if God can carry me through this with no loss of any function, really, whatever problems you have, they're equally minuscule. It's a miracle, and if God can do this in this tragic of an event, I think it's a shout out to say, hey, your problem is also equally as small, and God can carry you through it.
From Delray Beach, Florida, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
All right, folks, pray for the people of Haiti, and like this Christian Missionary Association has asked, that we can also pray for the gang members that they would repent and turn their lives over to Christ. That's as much of a miracle as it would be as much of a miracle for them as it was for me when I turned my life over to Christ, and let's hope that you've done the same. Now, I hope you'll like and support the podcast. We're going to be heading over to a major war zone in the next week, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit after we get there because I don't want to broadcast too much about it before we leave. But if you go to chuckholton.locals.com, you can support this podcast, and the money that we raise there we use to help people in the field. So hope to see you there. Take care.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media.
Copyright 2021.